Je désire informer la Chambre.
I wish to inform the House that the electronic voting period has ended. If members have not been able to vote because of technical issues, they can now use the raise hand function, and the table will recognize them. I do not see any raised hands. I will then ask the table to compile the results of the vote.
177. Nays contre, 163, 162.
Je déclare la motion adoptée.
Bill C-3 is now law, and it quietly changes what it means to be Canadian. For a long time, citizenship meant you lived here, you worked here, you built a life here. Now, that idea is changing.
The amendment to Canadian Citizenship Act came into effect yesterday, December 15th, 2025. So for all of you genealogy enthusiasts out there who can trace their Canadian heritage, you might just have a claim to Canadian citizenship. So if you have a grandparent, a great-grandparent, or even a great-great-grandparent who was born in Canada, even prior to Confederation, so they would have been deemed a British subject in British North America, and you can prove the delineation of your lineage with documentary proof, then you can make a bid for Canadian citizenship by descent. So you're going to have to submit some proof for this. And the proof is all going to be centered on the genealogical chain. And it starts with the ancestor who was born in Canada or what was considered British North America at the time. So that could be a territorial birth certificate. It could be a baptism certificate, but you need something to prove that that person was actually born in Canada. Even if they left and went back to the British Isles or perhaps moved to the United States or another country.
Under Bill C-3, a Canadian who was born or adopted outside the country can pass citizenship to a child also born outside Canada. They only need to prove they lived in Canada for 3 years at some point in the past. That time could have been many years ago. There is no rule saying the child must ever live in Canada. There is no rule saying the family must stay connected to the country. Supporters say this is fair. They say families move around the world, and the law should reflect that. But critics see a problem. Citizenship now looks less like a commitment and more like something you inherit, even if Canada plays no role in your life. Citizenship comes with real rights. The right to vote, the right to return at any time, the right to access public services. When those rights exist without any expectation to live here or contribute here, people start to ask questions. This isn't about being against families or adopted children. It's about whether citizenship should still mean having a real connection to the country. Bill C-3 fixes a legal issue, but it leaves Canadians unsure about what citizenship now stands for.
Colleagues, citizenship in Canada should not be just a piece of paper. It should be the most essential, most valuable identity element of our nation. It has to be clear, it has to be transparent, and the government cannot take it lightly. If we do not have instruments to identify who and how they are granted this important element of our identity, what are we doing in this town? I remember a prime minister not too long ago who put out a simple tweet saying, Canada's open. Come all, come free. Next thing we knew, at Roxham Road, we couldn't handle the people coming in. We couldn't build hotels fast enough in Montreal and Toronto and across the country. And as a result, the catastrophe today of the cost of living we have and the scarcity crisis in this country is in large part by irresponsible behavior of this nature. So when we put forward legislation as important as this, we need to be able to quantify the result.
Bill C-3 did not come from a big national discussion. It came from a court decision. In 2023, a judge ruled that parts of Canada's citizenship law were unconstitutional. The federal government chose not to appeal. Instead, it rewrote the law. That's how C-3 became reality. The new law allows citizenship to be passed down to children born abroad, as long as the parent once spent 3 years in Canada. What's missing is a public conversation. There was no wide debate about what citizenship should mean today, no serious discussion about long-term effects, no clear explanation of how this fits into Canada's future. Many Canadians feel this change just happened to them. Courts decide what is legal, but they don't decide what is practical. They don't decide how much pressure systems can handle. The government says Bill C-3 corrects an injustice. That may be true, but fixing a legal problem doesn't mean ignoring bigger questions. How many people will become eligible? What happens if large numbers decide to move to Canada later? Who pays the cost if systems are already strained? These questions weren't fully answered. That's why people are uneasy. Bill C-3 may follow the law, but many Canadians feel they were never truly part of the decision.
Canada just eroded its own passport. That's right, the Mark Carney government just amended the Citizenship Act, and it's bad. Really bad. It's called Bill C-3, and it expands what's called citizenship by descent. It means someone who immigrated to Canada, lived here for just 3 years, became a citizen, then moved abroad, can now pass their citizenship to their child born overseas. So their children will be recognized as Canadians, even if none of them ever live here again. Government estimates say that in the next 5 years, over 115,000 people overseas will gain this status that you are paying for. That's right, more than $20 million in taxpayer money just to make it happen. So think about the whole picture. If living here, contributing here, working here are no longer a part of being Canadian, what is? When you hold this passport in your hands, you are not holding a gift from Ottawa. You're holding generations of hard work, sacrifice, and pride. This passport represents blood, sweat, and history, not entitlement. It's identity, it's belonging. It's the highest honor a person can earn. It's not something to be handed out like a souvenir. And when the government treats it like paperwork, it cheapens everything our ancestors have built for us. We have a government that's turned its back on its own people, making it easier to hand out citizenship to those who never lived here. The consequences of giving out citizenship like candy are extremely serious and severe. People with no real connection or commitment to Canada will gain full rights, benefits, and voting powers. But most of all, it weakens our national identity. It undermines the fact that our ancestors have built this country brick by brick, yet they are giving it away to people who never lifted a finger for it. If calling yourself a Canadian no longer requires any connections to this land, then what does it mean to belong here at all?
Bill C-3 is arriving at a difficult moment for Canada. Housing is scarce, healthcare is stretched, costs keep rising. In the middle of all this, citizenship eligibility is expanding. Bill C-3 allows children born abroad to gain Canadian citizenship, even if they've never lived in Canada, as long as their parent once lived here for 3 years. Supporters say many of these new citizens may never come to Canada, but citizenship is an option, and options are often used when things change. If conditions worsen elsewhere, people will look to Canada. That's what citizenship allows. Critics say the problem isn't people, it's planning. Canada is expanding who belongs to the country without clearly expanding housing, healthcare, or services to match. That creates frustration. People feel they are being asked to accept less while eligibility keeps growing. This reaction isn't about hate or fear. It's about capacity. Countries need to match policies with reality. When they don't, trust erodes. Bill C-3 may be well-intended, but its timing makes people nervous. And until Canadians feel the system can handle more people, this debate will not disappear.